Gleb left to conquer the capital 10 years ago. Those were hard years. Despite his natural data, good brains and persistence in achieving his goal, his conquest of the capital did not progress as quickly as he would have liked. He worked as a loader, then as a courier. He rented a bunk in a room for 3 people, then a room in a communal apartment in the suburbs, a tiny studio on the outskirts. Only after 2 years he managed to get a job in his specialty in a good, developing company, where he was finally able to prove himself and start his career growth, and in 3 years he was already the owner of a small but strong business, where he was director, deputy director, manager, and security guard. Now it remained to make the most important step, to become not just a successful manager, but a serious businessman. He made it. Having overcome the crisis, stagnation, and other troubles, he had free capital, which can be invested in the expansion of his business, and can be partially wasted at resorts, to restore the nervous system, exhausted in the struggle to get into the elite, and sharpened by a recent divorce. Yes, to all the issues of the struggle for survival and family problems were added. Lena was not a mean and petty nature, did not suck all the juices from the budding oligarch, but was an ordinary girl, not the wife of the Decembrist. She wanted to live, not survive. To go to some exhibitions, social gatherings, to buy clothes from fashionable couturiers, to receive as a gift gold rings with brilliants. She was annoyed that her husband does not understand her needs and spends all the income on business development and feed her with promises of a bright future. And he got on his nerves that his wife claims to all sorts of, in his opinion, trifles, whose time has not yet come. In the end, she met on the way Glebov Pier, started before him, and from a much more favorable position, a native citizen of the city with a mom, prosecutor and dad, an official of the city administration. He could give Lena everything she wanted right now, and she went to him without a second thought. At the same time, you have to give her credit. She did not claim a share in the business and the apartment of her ex-husband, and limited herself to personal belongings in the car, which she drove herself, and to which she got used to. A little more time passed, and Gleb realized that now he could finally rest, relax. His small but solid financial empire could now destroy only a storm at the level of national disaster. He was firmly on his feet. Well, he was only 32, he was young and healthy. He should take a little break, and with renewed vigor, take up business. With all the variety and availability of the best foreign vacation spots, Gleb decided to go to the Crimea. He wanted to visit the places of his childhood, where his parents brought him many years ago, and where he spent wonderful summer days. Nostalgia, nothing to do. A suite in the best hotel, a very decent rental Mercedes, an excellent restaurant on the first floor. And the main thing, cozy embankments, beaches, small cafes, as Dad called them in Gleb's childhood, gluttons, expensive but delicious kebabs, and local home wine, tart, light, sweet and sour. Gleb was not attracted to expensive restaurants and nightclubs, social gatherings and other tinsel that he was entitled to by status. Now he could afford a lot of things, but the real pleasure was the availability of these simple pleasures, which then he and his parents could afford only once a year, before that saving on everything. He wandered through the alleys of parks, embankments, quiet streets. He drank coffee, brewed not by a machine but in a turochka on hot sand, or dry wine, shot at targets in a shooting gallery, bludgeoned with a hammer on a silomer, bought from local craftsmen their naive and touching souvenirs made of shells, ate large quantities of natural fruits. Once Gleb came across a performance of some half-wild theater. Young, cheerful artists played funny plays, miniatures from student life, sometimes naive, sometimes pretending to depth, sometimes frankly amusing. The platform was open. Come and see who wants to, but the audience was periodically bypassed by one of the artists with a big black hat in his hands, into which those who wanted to throw coins and banknotes. Gleb also put down a rather large bill, and the collector smiled at him gratefully. The man was standing in the last rows, and next to him a very pretty girl was having fun, young, pretty, with funny pigtails intricately woven into some kind of hairstyle with a pretension to pretentiousness. A tight t-shirt on her bare body, a short skirt, light sandals. Many girls dressed like that, but not all of them wore such clothes. This one did. The girl climbed up on some rock to see better, one hand holding onto the fence, the other gesticulating desperately, and already shrunken skirt stretched even higher, revealing slender tanned legs to a dizzying height, but at the same time did not violate the norms of decency, maybe because the girl was not trying to seduce someone or entice their view, just having fun from the heart. Gleb frankly admired this combination of seductive appearance and provincial simplicity. He really wanted to climb on a rock next to the young beauty, and as directly to have fun, watching the naive action in the Balaganza on the resort embankment. The performance was over, and there was noisy applause, shouts of approval, and whistling. Once more the collector with a hat passed by, and Gleb again put down a banknote, but a smaller one. He turned to cast a last glance at the lovely creature, and saw the girl jump down from the stone, stagger slightly, lose her balance for a moment, throw up her arms in an attempt to catch her balance, and it was so graceful and natural that Gleb smiled involuntarily. The girl raised her eyes, met Gleb's gaze, and smiled back at him, a little embarrassed and very naturally. "Careful, you could fall down like that," Gleb said, not in an attempt to get acquainted, but just from the heart. "No, I won't fall, I'm like a cat, clingy." She laughed childishly. As a matter of course, they walked side by side, in the direction of the embankment. The fun around was in full swing, music was playing, colorful lanterns were flashing and going out, carefree vacationers were wandering in crowds, and every now and then you could hear the merry laughter. Smoke from small gluttons was rising, the smell of kebabs was intoxicating. The man noticed the glances that his companion threw at these temptations, and suddenly felt the desire to sit at a table with this nice provincial girl. That it is not a resort but a local, he realized at once. That they were served kebabs, dry pink wine, and then ice cream, vanilla or chocolate. "Listen." He leaned slightly towards the girl. "I'm hungry like I don't know who. Why don't we have a kebab?" "Oh, I don't know. Everything here is so expensive. When I come here for a walk I take something from home, a sandwich or something. But I ate it a long time ago." "Well, let's go. I'll treat you." Seeing the girl's indecision, he laughed. "Don't worry, I'm a resort. I'm supposed to spend money like crazy." "Well, if so." She laughed happily. "Then let's go." They found a glutton with a tiny free table and sat down. A stooped, not young host, he was also a cook and a waiter, approached them, listened to the customers' wishes, and bowing, stepped back. Gleb knew that it was just a ritual. They served the same thing in such places. Kebab, goat cheese with tandoor flatbread, and wine. They were brought cheese and bread, a jug of wine and glasses. A pleasant surprise was a tall, simple glass with a single rose. "For the most beautiful girl in our restaurants," as the owner explained. Gleb reached for the jug. The girl, without dignity, put up her glass, and he remembered that in the South they often drink homemade wine instead of water, and the girl did nothing wrong. "What's your name?" Gleb smiled. "Aliona. And you?" "I'm Gleb. Listen, maybe you won't yell at me." No, you can't. You're older, and you're a man. I'm not supposed to be on a first-name basis with you." They drank a wonderful wine, Gleb, a full glass, Aliona, a third. Goat cheese, hard and salty, properly aroused thirst, and soon they brought perfectly roasted meat. They chatted merrily about trifles and important things. The girl said she lived in a small village not far from here, with her grandmother, who had raised her. Her parents had died when she was very young. She is 18. She tried to go to the institute, but she didn't have enough knowledge for the budget and finances for the commercial one. She'll apply next year, but in the meantime she's working. Today and tomorrow she has the day off. They sat a little longer. Gleb drank almost the whole jug himself. Aliona limited herself to one glass. Soon the girl hurried to the bus station. She had to catch the last bus to her village. Gleb offered to stay and walk some more. Then he was ready to take her by car. Aliona shook her head and said very simply that she wouldn't go by car with a man she didn't know, as her grandmother had taught her. "Are you afraid of me?" Gleb asked cautiously. "No, I'm not afraid. but Grandma said no, so you cannot. Let's meet tomorrow. We'll go for another walk, eh? Okay, I'm free tomorrow. I'll help Grandma in the morning, and I'll come by bus at 13:10. Will you meet me? Of course I'll meet you. You must come. I will, she laughed. I really enjoyed the walk, and the kebab was wonderful. I couldn't afford it myself. They said goodbye. Gleb didn't even try to embrace her, to give her a friendly kiss on the cheek. He waited for the bus to leave and waved to the girl. She also waved to him cheerfully, with her other hand clasping the rose, which was given to her by the woozy owner of the restaurant. The bus left, and Gleb slowly walked back to the hotel, trying to make sense of himself. Did he really fall in love with this young and completely innocent creature? Aliona was stunningly beautiful, but it was still the beauty of youth. The girl had not yet awakened femininity. Naturalness. That's what was the main thing in her. She was absolutely open, hid nothing, did not play any cunning games, easily accepted his invitation to eat, because she was hungry. It was easy to talk about herself because she had nothing to hide, easily agreed to meet again because she liked it. But just as easily she refused to get in his car because her grandmother had forbidden it. He was annoyed at himself for not asking for her phone number, but for some reason he was sure that the girl would definitely come. Why would he want this small, naive, open girl, both defenseless and at the same time protected by this very openness, innocence, purity? Well, like a little kitten, who can't be offended simply because it would be out of bounds. Why is he going to waste his time with her because the most he's going to get is a more or less adult kiss? He's a strong, healthy man, and he'd be better off finding a couple of bored resort girls willing to do anything and spending a few passionate nights with them in his fancy suite. He tossed in his bed almost all night, and in the morning he suddenly imagined how he was coming to the capital with Aliona, how she was aghast, seeing all the wonders of the capital, how she clung to him, looking for protection, and he put his arm around all these wonders and said, "It's all yours now, my dear." And she looked at him with a loving and trusting look. He woke up late and immediately grabbed his watch. He would not be late for the bus. There was still time, he had breakfast, drank coffee, and slowly walked to the bus station. In his years he had known many women, had several affairs besides marriage, and considered himself, if not a connoisseur of women, at least an expert in them. But all these women were completely different. They knew exactly what they wanted from a man. They knew what methods to use to get what they needed from him, and it was all complicated, intricate games. And now I won't play either. I'll just rest, spend my time to my liking, and not make trouble for myself, he decided, and headed for the bus station. Today Aliona was in short white shorts and a plaid shirt of a man's cut, with the top buttons undone. She smiled at him joyfully and openly. "Let's go to the beach today. We live far away. The sea is only here, so I also want to be a resort girl today." "Okay?" smiled Gleb. "Then show me where there is a good beach." After bathing, hungry to the point of cramps in the stomach, they again came to the same restaurant and ordered 2 kebabs. The owner smiled at them like old acquaintances, and when Aliona didn't see him, he gave Gleb a thumbs up and shook his head approvingly. Then they went to the bus station again, and the girl said, "Tomorrow and the day after tomorrow I work, from morning till evening, and then I will come again. Can't you get an excuse? I really want to see you." He took her thin palm in his hands for the first time. No, I can't. It's strict. But I'll be there in 2 days, first thing in the morning. Give me your cell phone. I'll at least call you. The connection in our village is very bad. It's hard to get through. Here's the number. Write it down, but don't expect any calls. Just come at 9 o'clock in the morning and wait. I'll miss you very much, Gleb said quietly. I'll miss you too. The girl answered even more quietly, and suddenly embraced him, kissed him near the lips, pressed her whole body against him for a second. Then she pushed him away, ran to the bus, and left, leaving on his cheek a marvelous scent of freshness and joyful expectation. For these 2 days that they did not see each other, Gleb was completely exhausted. He tried to call, but the connection was really terrible. It was possible only on the second day in the evening. Aliona was almost inaudible, but he understood the most important thing. Wait, I'll come. This day and the whole next day they spent together, walking along the embankments, swimming in the sea, or just walking. And with every hour Gleb realized more and more clearly that this story can't just end like this. It is necessary to decide something, or rather, to decide. In the next 2 days, when the girl was working, he contacted his deputy, listened to the report on the work, made sure that everything was going as it should. He ordered to rent a 2-room apartment not far from the center, but in a quiet neighborhood, fully furnished and ready to move in, to contact a recruitment agency, to find a young woman who would accompany a young girl from the province, to adapt her to life in the capital, to show the city and take her to all the necessary places. When Aliona arrived the next time, he embraced her with determination, kissed her, and took her to a fairly decent quiet cafe where she could chat without interference. The girl looked at him with some bewilderment. He had always kept some distance from her before. Aliona, he started his speech. I'll have to go back home soon. I have a job waiting for me. I don't want to part with you. Our meetings mean a lot to me. Please understand me correctly. I am a grown man, an established businessman, and I can't wait for the next vacation to see you. Flying to you on your days off is not an option either, and it's not the cost of such flights, but the fact that every minute of my working time will be devoted to work. What do you suggest? She asked quietly. I've been thinking a lot these days, and I realized very clearly, I don't just like you. I love you. Believe me, these are not empty words. The girl was silent, her head down, her cheeks flaming, her fingers rubbing the napkin. If it were possible, I would propose to you right now and take you to the capital as my wife. But I know you're not ready for such a step, and your grandmother wouldn't approve of such a rush. I'm not ready, the girl said faintly. Then let me put it this way. I want to officially talk to your grandmother and ask her permission to take you to the capital. What? To the capital? Who would I be there? I've thought of everything. We'll rent an apartment where you'll live. A woman will come and teach you about city life, household appliances and so on. We'll go to theaters, exhibitions, concerts, restaurants, but you'll live separately, and I won't claim special treatment for you. You will get used to me and to the capital's life, and when the time is right, we can get married officially. Unless, of course, I displease you. You won't displease me, Gleb. I don't want to throw words around, but I like you very much. But I'm afraid I'll never get used to life in the capital. I'm afraid of it. I'm sorry. You'll do fine. Don't be afraid. When can I talk to your grandmother? Please don't rush me, Gleb. I'll prepare my grandmother, talk to her, and let you know. They again walked along the embankments, went to the beach, but the former ease was no longer between them. The girl left early, saying that tomorrow they would not see each other. The conversation with her grandmother would be hard and long. On the third day a message came that the grandmother was waiting for him to talk to her tomorrow afternoon. Contrary to expectation, she was not adamantly opposed to such a decision. I see that you are a decent man. She waved away the unasked question. I see. And Alyonka is not just looking for adventure, I can see that too. Anyway, here's my decision. Go, look. Let her live in your capital, see. But there are 2 conditions. First, if you see that she doesn't fit in there, let her go. And the second, no business before the wedding. She's very sensitive about it. Don't offend the girl. Here is our family gospel. From my great-grandfather, swear on it. Gleb, without thinking, put his palm on the book and said the oath. When they arrived in the capital, the rainy season had already begun. Everything around was wet, damp, chilly. He drove the girl in his car around the city, told her what they saw, but realized that she did not perceive the information at all, so overwhelmed by the power, strength and grandeur of the huge metropolis, which seemed to want to swallow her, in passing, in between. They arrived at the apartment, and Aliona asked to be left alone tonight. She needed to rest and sleep. Marina, who had been hired to help her, showed her the essentials: bed, food, linen. She left a phone number for contact and left. Gleb also left, kissing the quiet girl, reminding her about tomorrow's trip to a restaurant. A real capital, expensive, not like the gluttons from the embankment. Since morning he had been busy. He carefully checked what had been done in his absence, and made sure that his deputy Arseny was doing his job perfectly. He called Alyona, but she was probably still asleep in the morning and didn't answer until close to lunchtime. He asked her to call Marina to get her ready for her upcoming outing: hair, dress, makeup. He would pick her up at 9 o'clock. When Alyona came out to him, he hardly recognized his Alyona. Her appearance had changed so much. Instead of a sweet provincial girl, she was a socialite from high society, and only a naive and frightened look and some movements gave her away as a resident of a distant village. At the table the girl was shy, almost did not speak, ate a little, and clearly did not enjoy her meal. Music was playing, and Gleb tried several times to ask her to dance. She refused categorically, almost with horror, pressed herself into the chair, almost crying. It became clear that the experiment failed, and he took Alyona home. The next day Marina took the girl to see the city, but even here was a failure. Even on the day of arrival she was frightened by the huge city, but then were not so noticeable crowds of people scurrying in all directions. There were so many of them that it seemed as if the entire population of the earth had come here. It got even worse when Gleb decided to take her out into society, to some banquet held in a solemn atmosphere. It was a big mistake because soon the girl became really bad, and she was urgently taken home. He came to her in the evening, but he could not talk to her. She just cried silently, turning her face to the wall and burying herself in a pillow. After that, she categorically refused all attempts to go out or to see anything, and soon they had a serious conversation. "I can't go on, Gleb. The capital will crush me. I'm bad here. I'm not adapted to such a life. I'm much nicer than all these restaurants, our gluttony on the waterfront, amateur balaganza instead of a fancy theater. I'm sorry, darling, but please take me back. I won't fit in here. I'll die. You promised your grandmother. But what about me? I can't do it without you, and here I have my whole life, my job, my business. I don't know. Maybe later I'll be older and I'll be able to overcome myself. But for now, let me live a normal life. Come back later, we'll see what we can change, but for now, take me back." Gleb fulfilled his promise. He missed the naive girl from the provinces very much, but business demanded his presence in the capital. He increased turnover, promoted the business, but he did it all automatically, without a soul, and gradually became convinced that Arseny not only coped with things better than he did, but also loved his work much more than he did. In early spring he again took a vacation for 2 weeks, but he went not to Alyona, but to a mountain Swiss hotel. When he returned, he was convinced that the office was running perfectly well without him, and finally made a decision. One warm summer day, a young respectable man appeared on the street of a provincial Crimean village and walked confidently to an address he knew. When he was already approaching the desired gate, a young girl ran out of the house and rushed to meet him. "Gleb, darling, you've arrived. Are you on vacation? I've been waiting for you so much." He hugged her tightly, kissed her, inhaling the native scent of her hair, and quietly said, "No, my love, I'm here for good." "For good? What about your business?" "My former deputy, and now the general director, is coping with the business. I sold him the whole business. He's going to pay me back gradually. I'll buy a house here. We'll live in it, go to the beach, eat kebabs in the restaurant. We'll have a fun wedding. I'll open a business here, and I'll never come back to the capital." Alyona hugged her beloved, cried happy tears, and her grandmother stood behind the threshold at the gate and looked at her granddaughter with an affectionate look.